Hi, I'm Wade from Thoroughbred Diesel. Today we're going to be teaching you how to change out the O-rings on a 6.0 Powerstroke injector. Alright, so what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to change out the O-rings on a 6.0 Powerstroke injector. We're doing a head gasket job down in the shop and doing a series of videos on 6.0 stuff. So I wanted to go through this, and then I actually watched a couple of different videos that are out there on YouTube. I had done this before, and I realized there was a couple of things that I did a little bit differently than what some of the other people that come up when you just check on YouTube. If you just do a search for O-ring 6.0 injectors, I watched a lot of them just to see if there was anything that I was doing different, and there is. So that's pretty much what I'm going to share with you today. This is a pretty basic job, but again, there's going to be a couple of things that you run into here that hopefully we can help you with. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, first off, let's go over what comes in a 6.0 injector O-ring kit, and then I'm going to show you the injectors, and I'm going to show you where the injector or that O-ring itself is located. Let's start at the very bottom of the injector, copper compression washer, and most of this 6.0 O-ring kits are going to have all these parts in them. This kit is out of a Mala headset that we're using, but it comes, all of these O-rings come with that headset. But we carry several different manufacturers that offer these kits, and they're all going to pretty well have all of these components in them. So starting at the bottom again, you have your copper compression washer, which you can see is still on the end of this. You'll get a new copper compression washer in your set. The next O-ring is a large white O-ring that separates the fuel inlet here. So you have a white O-ring on the bottom, and then the next O-ring is this large black one right here. And you get that in the kit as well. And then everything else is pretty much on top. The next O-ring that you're going to be dealing with is there is a black O-ring inside of here. This is your oil inlet for the 6.0 injector. You can't really see that very well. I'm going to try to go and zoom in just a little bit more here. And see if that opens up. It didn't do too awful bad. So you can see kind of inside there underneath of this ring that there's a black O-ring in there. That is going to be this O-ring in the kit. This is a more of a squarish O-ring, and when you look at it, it actually has a raised lip on the outside of the O-ring right there. So it's kind of a more of a squarish O-ring. But again, that's this O-ring that's inside of the oil inlet. And then the next O-ring that we will come to is here on the connector. It's a blue O-ring. Those come in the kit as well. This is this one right here. And then on the inside, you can look inside of there, and let me get that into some good light here. I'm going to zoom in real quick if I can get it going the right way. There we go. You can see on the inside there, on the outside around the electrical connector, there is a red O-ring in there, and you have that in the kit as well. That comes as well. So that is all of the O-rings in the kit. And let's say a few words here on this. This is not an injector rebuild. Please do not think that if you're having an injector failure, you can pop an O-ring or pop an injector out, re-O-ring it, and put it back in, and it be functional. That's not how this works. This is for you guys that weren't having any injector problems, that are doing a head gasket job, or anything that is requiring you to remove the injectors from the cylinder head. You'll want to re-O-ring those injectors just to keep yourself from having any different oil or fuel leaks caused by this HUE injection system. You're pressurized with everything. Of course, you are with anything, but re-O-ringing, if you've got these outside of the head, is definitely our suggestion. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first off, I wanted to say as well, before you start this job, you want to make sure that you're working in a clean environment. And as far as tools that you're going to need, a 10 metric socket, I want to show you for that, show you what that's for. I like to use a razor blade to remove the copper compression washer. And then I've got, and we've showed you these in several videos, I've got a special set of O-ring picks that I have bought from Snap-on. The part number on this one in particular is an SG-SR3A. The straight one is an SG-SR2A. These are just really, really nice picks. So you're going to see, and I use one too, you're going to see just a normal everyday pick that we're going to use here to remove the internal O-ring. But these are smooth edged. As long as you don't do something just extremely stupid, these tools are not going to cut the O-ring, so you can work with the O-rings without having to worry about cutting them. You know, that's really good if it's something that you on something else you've got to use. So it's not a, you know, we're not sponsored by Snap-on, but if you're doing these jobs and you want a good tool for that, that's just a suggestion. So you can totally use anything you want to. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I like to have a towel handy so I can clean components off as I go. And then the copper compression washer on the 6.0s and when the 7.3s for that matter, they get pretty well stuck on there. So what I use to remove the O-rings is I'll get them started, or to remove the copper compression washer, excuse me, is I like to use a razor blade. Razor blade's good and thin, and I'll take it and then I'll just walk it, excuse me, I'll take it and I'll walk it around the O-ring. And then that's just going to bring separation between the O-ring and the injector and the nozzle holder here. And then I'm just kind of twisting it as I go too, just to get me a little bit more separation. Then I'll go through here, or I'll go underneath of it once I've got enough distance. I'll go under it with my O-ring picks here, and I will just walk it off of the nozzle, and once it gets so far it'll come on off. So I'll go in there at that time, I'll clean that up. Okay, I'm going to put our pile of used washers right here. Then we'll go ahead and remove the body O-rings here, starting with the white one. Just roll it off. Next we're going to take the black one that's above it, roll it off. It is a larger diameter than the white one, so it'll roll it right on off. Then we're going to go after the ones in the top. Now I want to talk on this. Inside of your kit, you're going to receive, and I didn't talk about this when I talked about what you're going to get. You're going to get a new C-clip. If you want to take the C-clip, take it out. I understand. I find that they are so hard to get out that if you don't know what you're doing, you'll do damage to the oil inlet here. The C-clips that are in them, so long as they're not broken or anything of that nature, are going to hold what you've got going on here. I do not replace them. I just take this out, throw it away. I do not remove the C-clips from the old 6.0 body. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here, try to show you getting this O-ring out as best I can. And you'll have to excuse me here, folks. It's kind of a learning process for me. With this, I will use a pick because I'm not worried about hurting this O-ring, and it just gets into it better. So with the oil inlet here, let's see if I can zoom in just a little bit more, try to get some good. You can see that at the top of this right here, there is the snap ring that we were just talking about. Then there is a chamfered ring that is inside of here. It is chamfered, and what it is I'm sure it is a directional washer, for lack of a better word, that will have the oil nipple when it comes in. It gets it directed to where it's not pinching the O-ring on insertion of the oil rail. So that is right below the O-ring, or right above the O-ring, and then the O-ring is below that. So I'll take a pick and I will go straight in and then just pry the O-ring out. And you can kind of see it coming out there. They will break sometimes. They tend to be hard and brittle. You don't want it to break if you can keep from it. I did not keep from it here, so we'll just keep working it out. It's because I'm on camera. Wow, this O-ring's fighting me here. And I just pulled that on out with my hand. You can kind of see that O-ring there. What you've got. You want to make sure that you pay special attention. I'll zoom in just a little bit more. I'm getting greedy now. You can kind of see the oil inlet to the spool valve there, and if you look at it, it's running kind of east-west right here. You want to make sure that nothing fell into that oil inlet for that spool valve. You want to make sure that that is good and clean, that no piece of this O-ring fell into that injector, into that spool valve. If a piece does, the injector is not going to function right, and you're going to have a problem. Okay, so let's zoom back on out and let's continue taking the rest of these O-rings off. So next we're going to be working with the two O-rings that are on the solenoid here. So you're going to be removing, or on the electrical connector, excuse me, the blue O-ring that is on the electrical connector itself. We're going to roll it down and off of the connector. And then you have the orange O-ring that is internal to the electrical connector. Kind of more of a grommet really than it is anything. You want to use your sharp pick for this one here to get it out. You just pop it up and pull it right out there. So there you go. So let me zoom back out. So here's our pile of dead soldiers right here. You've got your electrical connector internal O-ring, electrical connector external O-ring, the oil nipple internal black O-ring. You have your black body ring, the white body ring, and then you have your copper compression washer. There's going to be some of that white coloring that's left in this recess here for the white O-ring. I don't usually worry about cleaning it out. It doesn't change the tolerance or the contact of the O-ring, so we're good to go there. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with reinstalling these O-rings. All right, we're going to show you how to reinstall your O-ring here. First thing I want to talk about is the pick that you used that has the sharp ends on it. Get it off your work table. We're not using it anymore for reinstallation of the O-rings. So, and I don't feel like there's any certain sequence to this. I got a lot of friends that work in fuel shops. They're probably going to watch this video and beat me up on some stuff, but I just do stuff the way that it's always worked for me. So, you know, if you all have another way and you want to put those in the comments or whatever, please feel free. But the first O-ring that I like to put on is the white body O-ring. And the reason why I put it on first is because this goes ahead and falls into this lower recess. And putting the O-ring on into that recess will help me put my next one on, and it can roll over just a little bit easier. So then we use our black body O-ring. So we'll just go ahead and roll it right on up and into its next recess, which is right there. So we've got our white body O-ring on, and then our black body O-ring on, sealing off our fuel inlet. Okay, and then next I'm going to put my blue O-ring on my electrical connector. I'll just go ahead and just roll it on. Watch for the connector tabs here. I actually will take one side and roll it up and then come back for the other side. And it goes in this recess right here almost to the top. There you are. And then next is going to be to install our red O-ring for the inside of the electrical connector. So I just lay it in there like so. Then I'll take my O-ring tool I was telling you about, and I will ever so gently push it down in the recess around the electrical connector. You can see that right there. Let me go ahead and zoom in just a little bit for you guys. I'll just take my tool and work around the outside of the O-ring. Just get it seated inside the electrical connector. Just like so. All right. Next is going to be the internal black O-ring. All right, we're going to show you how to install the internal black oil rail O-ring, and this is kind of where I do it a little bit different. And sorry about the cutaway there. I had to cut back to this because I forgot to turn my phone off like an amateur. Let me show you the function of what's going on here right now. So to the oil entry here, when you have the O-ring out, and I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit, try to use as much of this light as I can. Okay. When you have the O-ring out like we do here, the chamfered washer is actually free to move to the entrance to the spool valve, between the snap ring and the entrance to the spool valve down there. And then it'll go, you know, well, about the width of what the O-ring is there, to be honest with you. It'll go down, so it moves freely in the bore. There's residual oil in the bore there, so it should move pretty freely, but it needs to go equally. So you need to move one side just a little bit and then come back and move the other side. Move one side and come back and move the other side. So I'm bringing this to the top, this washer to the top of the bore, like that right there, and then I'll run my smooth pick around the top of it to make sure that it's there. And I know that lighting's not the best, but I'm going to try to, there it is. There it is. So I've got the chamfered washer all the way up to its up position there. I hope you can see that. But if you're doing it in function, if you're doing it in practice, then you'll be able to see this. You'll be able to understand what I'm talking about. So I've got the chamfered washer all the way up, and I've got it resting against the top of the snap ring. It's hard to come off right there. Okay, so it's probably easiest just to leave the washer or the injector turned sideways there so it doesn't float back down in the bore because of the residual oil. Then you just take your O-ring, and what I like to do is just pinch it together, and I'm concentrating on keeping that chamfered washer at the top, and then you also want to stay away from the cut in the O-ring. So the cut in my O-ring, or the cut in my snap ring, excuse me, is right here on this side. You want to stay away from that, and the reason you're staying away from that is because it's sharp. It can cut the O-ring when you're going in there, so just be conscious of where it is. So I'm going to work away from that there. So turning the injector sideways, I'm going to check my chamfered washer again, and I'm going to take my new O-ring, I'm going to pinch it together, and then I'm just going to insert it into the bore like so, and then I'm going to push it towards the entrance to the spool valve. So I'm going to turn that back up and show you what I've done there. And now, if you've done that right, which I didn't, and I just push that down. Now, if you've done that right, when you take the O-ring and you go to move the O-ring around, you're going to be moving that chamfered washer up and down as well. I haven't gotten it yet. This takes a bit, and I'm going to stay on camera with this as much as I can because I want to give you as much of my experience with it so you know what you're doing. There it is. Okay, so here it is right here. So I've got the O-ring engaged into that chamfered washer to where I can pull the chamfered washer up and down. You can almost hear it squeaking inside there. That's perfect. That's what you want. I'm going to show you why. The reason why you want that engaged in the chamfered washer like that is because you're going to pull the O-ring up at that time and then tilt the O-ring towards the side. And remember, we want to stay away. We want to stay away from the cut for the O-ring for the snap ring. So I'm going to pull that up. That's got my chamfered washer up, and I'm just going to tilt the O-ring. So show you that. So here's my O-ring up, like so. Okay, I've got it away from the O-ring, and then I'm just going to tilt it like so. And then what I do is I just use this smooth O-ring tool from Snap-on that I've got. You can use whatever, tone compressor or whatever. And then I just go in there and I start pulling the O-ring into the recess between the chamfered washer and the spool valve opening, or the spool valve ledge. There's what I'm going to call it. So I just keep working it like that. Okay, sorry, I'm off camera there. I'll just keep working it into that recess. Okay, once I'm confident, and then I'll take the back of this tool and I'll run the back of it along that O-ring. Once I'm confident that that's in that recess right there, I'll go ahead and start walking the O-ring in. Don't get carried away here. Be conscious of where the opening to the snap ring is. I lost it. I'm going to zoom out there because there's really nothing that you're going to see. And I need to get the injector position. So when it falls out, I'll reset, push it. I'll push the O-ring down. I'll reset, and then I'll pull the chamfered washer back up. And then I just keep working it into the recess and walking the O-ring in, getting the O-ring started on the bore side, on the other side, is what is so important here, because once you get it started, it's pretty much a race at that point. And just try to work on just walking it in as best you can, and as you walk it, take the smooth end of your O-ring tool, just keep rolling it around, and then that's just kind of, you're just using it as to smooth it in through the recess there. So once you get one more, yeah, good. Once you get to where the O-ring, you can just pretty much just see the nub of it there. What I'll do is I'll go back. I will pull up a couple more times to make sure it's in its recess. Then I'm going to do my final push on the O-ring, and I do it from the outside of the O-ring. I ledge my tool against the lip of that O-ring. I told you there's a lip on the outside of it. I ledge my tool against that O-ring, and I just on the outside, and conscious of where my snap ring opening is, and then I'll just walk it in just like that. And that one fell in great. At this point, I use the smooth end of that O-ring tool. It's where I'm not damaging anything. I just take it and make a couple of rounds around the internal portion of it. You will check it again to make sure it is underneath of the chamfered washer. And there you go. And again, this tool, this is why you're using this tool. If you don't use something smooth like this, if you try to do what I just did with this sharp pick, you're going to damage that O-ring. You're going to have an oil leak. You're going to have a no start when you get the truck back together, on and on and on, or a hard start or whatever. You're going to want to roll that on in. Talked about. And there you go. Voila. I'm going to zoom in here. What I got, I'm going to bring you some light to it. Show you what I'm looking at right there. You can see there's an unobstructed view of the entry to the spool valve. The O-ring is set in nicely, and we are ready to go. That portion of the spool valve, I wish I had another pair of hands there. So in top of your screen, if you look in the center of that spool valve, you'll just see a opening, just a groove in the bottom of that. That's your oil entry into that spool valve. You want to make sure that that's clean, that there's no debris that's gotten down in there. You know, clean it out before you put it back on the truck, and you'll be good to go. Smooth that out again. A couple more times the O-ring with your O-ring tool. And there you are. And then the last portion of our O-ring installation, but you guys are tired of me fooling with this camera, aren't you? Last portion of our O-ring installation is our copper compression washer. Our copper compression washer actually has two sides. I am going to have to zoom back in one more time, guys. Our copper compression washer actually has two different sides. Let the camera focus. Focused on the injector, so I'll take it back down the injector. You'll have a raised portion in the middle of this, and then a concave portion. You want the raised portion to go towards the to the combustion portion of the engine. So I want to show you that. Sealing these injectors is so important, because if you have combustion gases get into the oil or get into the fuel entry, into the fuel return, it's just going to cause havoc on the install. So let me show you a real neat little trick I use. I just take a 10 metric shallow well socket, and I'll turn the raised portion of the compression washer down towards the socket, like so. I'll line it up on the side of the socket to where I can have my nozzle pass through it. And you want to check, make sure that the nozzle will go all the way through there and not get obstructed by something. So put my injector nozzle on there, or my copper compression washer on there. Bring the whole thing into view. Then we take our injector and we just line it up on the copper compression washer like so. And then we just simply push down like so. And then that will seat the copper compression washer perfectly for us. See, if you have any raised sides, you just go back and work those down. You want to make sure before you put your copper compression washer on that that side of the nozzle holding cup is good and clean, so you could have a good flat surface there. You want that to go down good and flat, and there you are. And there it is. There is a 6.0 Powerstroke injector, completely re-O-ringed, and ready for installation. Take some brake clean here and just clean everything up. Lubricate your O-rings before you reinstall them, and you're good to go. So that's how to O-ring a 6.0 Powerstroke injector. If you have any questions, please give us a call, and thank you for watching.